This video is sponsored by Audible. Books in your ears, anywhere, anytime. Even when you're running from dinosaurs. Start your free Audible trial, link in the description, and help LitReads keep exploring the shadows. Now, on to today's tale. Jurassic Park, The Lost World. Chaos, control, and the cost of survival. Part 1. Different motivations, different worlds. The movie opens with urgency. The novel begins with secrecy. In Spielberg's The Lost World, chaos is already in motion. Sarah Harding is on the island, and Ian Malcolm is being pulled back into a world he tried to leave behind. The goal is clear: save her. Rescue mission. Time is running out. But in Crichton's novel, the island is still myth, a whisper in corporate corridors. A researcher goes missing. Satellite images raise suspicion. Malcolm, badly injured in the events of the first book, is skeptical, reluctant to get involved again. His return isn't fueled by love, it's driven by curiosity and caution. This change in motivation isn't small. It's the fulcrum on which everything pivots. In the book, the mission is built on logic. Document the animals, study their behavior, and if possible, expose the truth. There's a haunting awareness that this expedition may be doomed before it starts. Crichton's characters are cautious, methodical. They bring high-tech gear, backup plans, redundancies. In the film, the mission is emotional. Sarah went alone. Hammond manipulated Malcolm. There's a ticking clock and a child stowed away in the trailer. It's not a question of science. It's a question of survival. Spielberg knows what the audience came for. Dinosaurs, drama, and a beating heart at the center. Therefore, the story becomes reactive instead of reflective. The novel asks, what can we learn from this place? The film asks, can we get out alive? But then, both versions spiral into the same truth. The illusion of control doesn't last long. Whether you came for love or knowledge, it won't save you from the wild. In both worlds, Malcolm returns to the island thinking he can manage what's coming. In both worlds, he's wrong. Part 2. The role of Sarah Harding. Sarah Harding exists in both versions of The Lost World, but who she is and what she represents changes dramatically between page and screen. In the novel, Sarah is an independent field biologist, a specialist in predator behavior. She's calm under pressure, whip-smart, and fully aware of the dangers she faces. She's not anyone's love interest. She's there because she wants to be. She chooses the danger, and she's prepared for it. In the film, Sarah is still intelligent and capable, but her role becomes personal. She's Ian Malcolm's girlfriend, and that relationship defines much of her presence. She goes to the island ahead of the others, alone, to prove a point. It's brave, yes, but also impulsive. And her actions unintentionally endanger the group more than once. Therefore, the film trades competence for connection. It wants us to care whether Malcolm saves her, whether their bond survives the ordeal. But then, the cost is agency. Book Harding is a leader. Film Harding is a plot catalyst. There are glimpses of her strength in the movie, moments where she asserts control, makes smart decisions, or comforts the baby Stegosaurus. But they're fragments. The character's professional background is sidelined in favor of emotional arcs. And that's the heart of Spielberg's adaptation. He humanizes the chaos. He pulls us in with family ties and moral dilemmas. Crichton, by contrast, keeps his world colder, more Darwinian. Sarah doesn't need saving. She's the one doing the saving. Two Sarahs, same island. One built for fear, the other for feeling. Part 3. Eddie Carr, Thorn, and supporting cast. In most adventure stories, side characters are forgettable. In The Lost World, both versions, they shape the tone of the entire journey. In Crichton's novel, Doc Thorne and Eddie Carr are professionals. Thorne is the grizzled engineer who built the field equipment, ruthlessly practical, armed to the teeth with backup plans. Eddie is younger but sharp, loyal, and calm under pressure. These men are not expendable. They're the reason the team survives as long as it does. In the film, Thorne doesn't exist. Eddie is split in two, part techie, part moral backbone, and then promptly killed off. Therefore, the movie trades depth for drama. Eddie's death is noble, emotional, and cinematic. He saves the trailer from falling and dies brutally, but then his absence leaves the team exposed. There's no Thorne to fix the vehicles, no logistical brain to problem solve under stress. Crichton's version leans into realism. He gives us a team that could plausibly survive a hostile island. They're cautious, prepared. Their biggest mistakes come from underestimating the dinosaurs, not from failing to pack rope or gasoline. Spielberg's version is leaner. It's built for tension, not logistics. The fewer the survivors, the higher the stakes. But the loss of Thorne and the oversimplification of Eddie removes something vital. The sense that this was ever meant to be scientific. That this expedition had any control at all. In Crichton's world, failure is tragic. In Spielberg's, it's inevitable. Part 4. The real danger isn't the dinosaurs. Everyone remembers the T-Rex attack, the raptor chase, the stampede. But the real danger in The Lost World isn't claws or teeth. It's profit. In Crichton's novel, the villains aren't the animals. They're the people trying to exploit them. Biosyn, Hammond's corporate rival, sends a team led by Dodgson, the same man who bribes Nedry in the first book. They arrive with one goal: steal dinosaur eggs and genetic material. It's corporate theft, a biotech heist, and it's handled with chilling realism. Dodgson is no mustache-twirling villain. He's efficient, focused, and completely amoral. His team is competent. They don't fail because they're stupid. They fail because nature doesn't care how smart you are. In the film, we get Peter Ludlow, Hammond's smarmy nephew. He's greedy, inept, and doomed from the start. His plan is to build a dinosaur zoo in San Diego. His downfall isn't tragic, it's deserved. Therefore, the film externalizes the danger. Ludlow becomes a scapegoat for human arrogance. But then, the audience never has to sit with the idea that the system itself is broken. The problem becomes him, not us. Crichton, by contrast, attacks the system. The incentives that reward risk over caution, the denial of responsibility, the illusion that science and commerce can coexist without consequence. One version gives us a villain, the other a warning. And only one still feels terrifyingly real. Part 5. The Raptors and the Carnage. If the T-Rex is the spectacle, the Raptors are the nightmare. In The Lost World, both book and film use the Raptors to escalate tension. But the way they do it reveals each creator's vision of fear. Crichton's Raptors are terrifying, not because they're fast or violent, but because they're smart. In the novel, they behave like problem solvers. They communicate, they test fences, they set traps. They don't just attack, they outthink. Their horror lies in their logic. The Raptors in Spielberg's film are iconic, but they're simpler. They leap, snarl, claw, and chase. They're predators, sure, but more like slasher villains than intelligent foes. Their intelligence is hinted at, not developed. They're scary in the moment, not in retrospect. Therefore, the film delivers action-driven fear. The raptors are there for pulse-pounding chase scenes, but then the deeper, existential fear Crichton builds is left behind. In the book, there's a chilling moment where the characters realize the raptors are migrating, not just killing, but organizing, acting with a purpose. It's a revelation that suggests something much worse than violence: evolution. That idea never reaches the screen. The movie doesn't want to scare you tomorrow, it wants to scare you now. Which works until the credits roll, because when the dust settles, you remember the raptors. But only the book leaves you wondering if they're still out there. Part 6. The Ending. A tale of two messages. Every story ends. What matters is how. In The Lost World, the contrast between the novel's ending and the film's finale might be the most important divergence of all. Crichton's book ends in unease. The survivors barely escape the island. Several die. Malcolm is badly wounded. There's no closure, only silence. The island is left behind, its secrets buried again, but not destroyed. The final note is ominous. Something escaped. Something might still be out there. Spielberg doesn't stop at the island. He gives us a bonus act, San Diego. The T-Rex runs loose in the city, devours a man, wrecks cars, and then returns to the boat. It's thrilling, absurd, and unforgettable. Therefore, the film ends on a grander scale, dinosaurs in our world, not just theirs. But then, that ending changes the point entirely. It's not about caution anymore. It's about consequences. The movie offers closure. Ludlow dies, the family survives. Hammond narrates a hopeful message about coexisting with nature. The music swells, the credits roll with a sense of peace. The book offers no such comfort. There's no speech, no triumph, only questions. How long until someone else finds the island? How long before it happens again? One ending wraps things up. The other leaves them open. And only one still haunts you when the lights come back on. Part 7. Literary themes in the book. Beneath the dinosaur thrills and jungle survival, Crichton's The Lost World is built on a scaffold of ideas. It's not just a sequel, it's a warning system. The novel returns to one of Crichton's central obsessions, the illusion of control. Scientists and corporations believe they can predict, contain, and profit from nature, but nature in Crichton's world is not just unpredictable, it's actively resistant to manipulation. Ian Malcolm once again becomes the voice of the novel's moral and philosophical core. His lectures on chaos theory, unintended consequences, and scientific arrogance aren't just exposition. They're a challenge. A warning not just to the characters, but to the reader. Therefore, the novel is about more than dinosaurs. It's about the systems we build, corporate, scientific, political, and the blind spots they carry. But then Crichton never lets that theme slow the pacing. The ideas are woven into the danger. Every broken protocol, every failed safeguard reinforces the same point. You can't tame complexity. There's also a recurring thread of ethical detachment. The idea that humans treat living things as data points. That extinction, experimentation, and resurrection are all just intellectual puzzles. It's chilling because it feels plausible. The real monsters aren't the clone predators. They're the people who treat them like spreadsheets. And in that sense, Crichton's novel doesn't just entertain, it indicts. Part 8. Where Crichton critiques systems, Spielberg elevates the human spirit. His Lost World is still dark. There's death, destruction, and moral reckoning, but at its heart is a story about redemption and connection. Ian Malcolm, once a cynical doomsayer, becomes a father figure, Sarah is a courageous partner. Kelly, Malcolm's daughter, becomes the emotional anchor that forces us to care whether these characters survive. Spielberg shifts the lens. The chaos isn't just scientific, it's personal. And through that lens, we're asked to engage not with data, but with people. Therefore, the film transforms a cerebral warning into an emotional journey. But then it loses some of the philosophical bite in the process. There's environmental messaging, Hammond's closing speech about letting nature reclaim its course, but it feels more like a postscript than a premise. The film doesn't linger on ethics, it lingers on spectacle. The dinosaurs are beautiful, terrifying and majestic, not lab accidents, but wonders of the world. In that beauty, there's a message too, that nature is worth protecting, that these animals, however unnatural their origins, deserve reverence. Crichton asks, "What have we done?" Spielberg asks, "Can we do better?" It's not a lesser question, just a different one. And in that difference, we see two visions. Part 9. Final shot. Final message. Sometimes the final shot says everything. In Spielberg's Lost World, the last image is dinosaurs thriving in their natural habitat. A herd of stegosauruses in the mist, a pterosaur soaring over the cliffs. The message is unmistakable. Life once again has found a way. It's a moment of peace, of awe. The threat has passed, for now, and what remains is wonder. Crichton's novel ends on a different note. There's no sweeping score, no tranquil valley. Just a military quarantine, scientists watching satellite feeds, and one chilling implication. Some of the animals may have made it to the mainland. The story doesn't end with closure, it ends with surveillance. Therefore, the film offers catharsis. It closes the book with a sigh. But then, the novel leaves the cover cracked open. One ending asks us to marvel. The other asks us to worry. And together, they form a perfect split screen. Spielberg's camera fades out with hope. Crichton's page lingers with doubt. Because the truth is, The Lost World was never just about dinosaurs. It was about control. About what happens when we try to bottle nature, and what gets out when the bottle breaks. So whether you walked away smiling or uneasy, you were never meant to feel safe.